What's up, guys? Welcome to another session with Abdul Wahab. Today we're going to be working on the fourth text from the SAT practice test number 1 from the College Board website. Those exams or these practice tests are available for free for download on the College Board website. You could all go there, download them, and start working on them. I know it's been a long while since I've posted any videos, but here we go. This is a new text that we're going to be working on. And again, I'm going to try and show you that the SAT exam is not necessarily that hard or difficult to deal with. It's actually much more accessible once you know how to approach the text and how to read it, how to deconstruct the questions so that they would all make sense. So as always, we begin with this tiny little introduction right here at the top. Okay, it gives us a main idea as to what the text is going to talk about. So this passage is adapted from Virginia Woolf, Three Guineas, 1938 by Harcourt. Here Woolf considers the situation of women in English society. So this is going to be a text about women, a feminist piece of text. So let's have a look at it. Virginia Woolf is probably one of the best writers to have ever lived, and this text is probably extremely very well written, so I bet it's going to be an extremely enjoyable read. So close at hand is a bridge over the river Thames. The river Thames, of course, is a river in Britain. I think it's in London. I'm not really sure about that. So an admirable vantage ground for us to make a survey. So Virginia Woolf and a group of people, I assume, because she's talking about us. They're standing somewhere where they have a good perspective, a good point of view. That's the vantage, okay? Where they could see the bridge over the river Thames, and from that spot they could make a good survey. A survey is like a study or an examination of something. So let's see what she's talking about. The river flows beneath. Barges pass, laden with timber, bursting with corn. There on one side are the domes and spires of the city. On the other, Westminster and the Houses of Parliament. It is a place to stand on by the hour, dreaming. So it's such a beautiful spot to stand on because you can see all of these stuff, the domes and the spires, and Westminster Abbey, I think that is, and the Houses of Parliament. It's a great place to stand and dream, reflect, think. But not now, okay? So we're not going to be dreaming now or reflecting. Now we are pressed for time. We don't have a lot of time. Okay, when you say you're pressed for time, it means you don't have a lot of time to waste or any time to waste. Now we are here to consider facts. So today we're standing there to consider the facts, to consider reality, no time for reflection or dreaming. Now we must fix our eyes upon the procession of the sons of educated men. So from where they could stand, or from where they're standing, there's a procession of people. A procession is a group of people walking together. Okay, the sons of educated men. So let's see what she has to say about that procession. There they go, our brothers, okay, the men who have been educated at public schools and universities, mounting those steps, passing in and out of those doors, ascending those pulpits, preaching, teaching, administering justice, practicing medicine, transacting business, making money. So what Virginia Woolf is trying to do here, as far as I could see, is she's trying to tell us about all the different kinds of occupations and jobs that men are doing in English society. Okay, so they are speakers, they are preachers, they are clergymen, they are teachers and professors and instructors, they administer justice, they are lawyers and judges, they're practicing medicine, they are doctors, they're businessmen, and so on. So it is a solemn sight always. It's always been a solemn or a serious sight. This procession, it's like a caravanserai crossing a desert. A caravanserai is basically a group of merchants moving together in a form of a procession, but it's going through the desert. Now, let's say you don't know what caravanserai is. I mean, you don't really need to know the definition of this one word, but it's a procession like a caravanserai. So you could connect the dots right here, crossing a desert. But now, for the past 20 years or so, it is no longer a sight merely, a photograph or fresco scrawled upon the walls of time, at which we can look with merely an aesthetic appreciation. So what she's trying to tell us here is that this sight, okay, for the past 20 years or so, has no longer been just a photograph or a painting or a fresco. Fresco is it's like a drawing on a wall, okay? It's no longer been that, okay? And we can look now at it not only with just aesthetic reception. Aesthetic means it has to do with beauty, okay? So for there, trapezing, okay, walking along at the tail end of the procession, we go ourselves. So here I'm beginning to get a little sense of what she's trying to say. So along with the sons of men, okay, the males who are walking across the bridge, going ascending those steps and entering those extremely important and serious buildings, uh, are women. Okay, so she's addressing women in society. She's telling them now we've begun doing almost the same thing. And remember, this has been happening for the past 20 years or so. This change has been going on. And that makes a difference. We have looked so long at the pageants in books or from a curtained window, watched educated men leaving the house at about 9:30 to go to an office, returning to the house at about 6:30 from an office. Need look passively no longer. We don't need to look at this from a passive perspective without participating or taking action in it no longer. We can be part of this now. We too can leave the house, can mount those steps, pass in and out of those doors, make money and administer justice. So now we can do exactly the same jobs that men are doing. We who now agitate these humble pens may in another century or two speak from a pulpit. We may get to a point where we have taken almost exactly the same positions as those men. Now, at that time, just to give you some background information, which you really don't need to know to do this part of the exam, but it's nice to know these pieces of information. In the early 20th century was the feminist movement. Women were beginning to ask for the rights to vote, for the rights to take on the same jobs that men have in society, and they gained those rights slowly. Okay, so while they were able to become lawyers, at a certain point they were still not able to run for office or to become presidents or prime ministers or politicians. They were slowly getting there. So we who now agitate these humble pens may in another century or two speak from a pulpit, become a politician essentially. Nobody will dare contradict us, fight us, okay, or go against us. We shall be the mouthpieces of the divine spirit. A solemn thought, is it not? Is this not a serious thought to ponder over? Who can say whether, as time goes on, we may not dress in military uniform? Who knows? Maybe when enough time has passed, we may even become soldiers in the army, maybe generals or lieutenants, okay? With gold lace on our breasts, swords at our sides, and something like the old family coal scuttle on our heads, save that that venerable object was never decorated with plumes of white horsehair. Of course, she's referring to the long hair of women. This army uniform, it has never basically been worn by women. Maybe at some point in the future it will be. And of course today it is. You laugh. Indeed, the shadow of the private house still makes those dresses look a little queer. We have worn private clothes so long. Basically, she's referring to private domestic life when women used to just spend all of their time at home, not actually taking an active participating role in society. But we have not come here to laugh. This is not a matter of fun. Okay, again, this is a solemn or a serious sort of text. She's trying to be as serious as she could be. So we are not here, okay, to laugh or to talk of fashions, men's and women's. We are here on the bridge to ask ourselves certain questions, and they are very important questions, and we have very little time in which to answer them. So again, there's this pressing sort of urgency in the tone of the text, okay? There's this, she's trying to get these women to act as quickly as she could. The questions that we have to ask and to answer about that procession during this moment of transition are so important that they may well change the lives of all men and women forever. We have to ask ourselves, here and now, do we wish to join that procession or don't we? On what terms shall we join that procession? Above all, where is it leading us? The procession of educated men. The moment is short. Again, there's this urgency right there. It may last 5 years. It may take us 5 years or 10 years or perhaps only a matter of a few months longer. But you will object. Some of you will object. You have no time to, you don't have any time in your hands to think. You have your battles to fight, your rent to pay, your bazaars to organize, you have your businesses, you have your rent to pay. You're busy with all of these problems that all people have in life. So you might say, okay, we don't have time for this feminist movement. That is excuse shall not serve you. This excuse is not going to work, madam. As you know from your own experience, and there are facts that prove it, the daughters of educated men have always done their thinking from hand to mouth, not under green lamps at study tables in the cloisters of secluded colleges. They have thought while they stirred the pot. Again, she's referring to domestic life. While they rocked the cradle, basically while they were raising babies. It was thus that they won us the right to our brand new sixpence. Okay, so the brand new sixpence is basically the right to actually go out there and have jobs, have earnings, getting an income. So she's not, I don't think she's actually referring to an actual sixpence, but to the chance of making money. Okay, we have finally gotten to a point where we do take part in jobs where we are getting paid, and this is a chance that we should not squander. So it falls to us now to go on thinking, to continue on thinking and using our heads. How are we to spend that sixpence? How are we going to use this money, or how are we going to use the chance to earn money? Okay, so we've gotten to that point where we have secured ourselves our jobs. Okay, what's next? That's what she's asking. Okay, again, I think the sixpence here is of course metaphorical. Think we must. We have to think. There's no way outside of thinking. We have to be scientists, we have to be engineers, we have to be lawyers, we have to use our heads, basically. Let us think in offices instead of being at home thinking and being authors or novelists. Let's think in offices. Let's think in omnibuses while we are standing in the crowd, watching coronations and Lord Mayor's shows. Let us think in the gallery of the House of Commons. Let's become politicians. In the law courts, let's become lawyers and judges. Let us think at baptisms, marriages, and funerals. Let us become clergymen, or in this case, of course, clergywomen. Let us never cease from thinking. Let us not stop thinking at all. What is this civilization in which we find ourselves? What's this culture in which we find ourselves? What are these ceremonies, and why should we take part in them? What are these Here she's beginning to ask the questions that women should be thinking about and answering. Okay, women should try and interpret or analyze the civilization or the society they live in. They should analyze the ceremonies, or basically the events that are happening in the country, and why women should be taking part in those. What are these professions, and why should we make money out of them? Where, in short, is it leading us? The procession of the sons of educated men. So again, I highlighted almost everything, but I always do this. Okay, so very exciting text, not too long. So now let's take a look at the questions. I think when you read a piece of text from the SAT this way, it's gonna be really hard to not get engrossed in it and not to grasp it completely. So the main purpose of the passage is to emphasize the value of a tradition. If you've been following since the beginning, she's actually criticizing a tradition and not emphasizing its value. She wants women to stop just being workers at home and to actually go out and participate in society. Stress the urgency of an issue. Well, we did have a lot of stressing, and we did have a lot of urgency. And there is the issue of women participating in society. So I really like B. Let's take a look at C and D. Highlight the severity of social divisions. Virginia Woolf recognizes that there is a division in society where women are supposed to do one thing and men are supposed to do another. But she doesn't dwell on the severity of this division. She's kind of more urging women to take part in the jobs that men are doing. So C is not exactly the main purpose of the passage. The question, the feasibility of an undertaking, she's not studying the feasibility of, is it possible, is it plausible, can we do it? No, she knows they can. She's just trying to urge women to do it, because they already can. They're receiving their education. They now have the chance, okay, remember the sixpence, to go out there and participate in these jobs. So they should go out there and participate in public life. So the central claim of the passage is that, okay, what is the central claim of this passage? Educated women face a decision about how to engage with existing situations. Women can have positions of influence in English society only if they give up some of their traditional roles. The male monopoly on power in English society has had grave and continuing effects. The entry of educated women into positions of power traditionally held by men will transform those positions. But let's take a look at those examples one by one. Okay, so A, educated women face a decision about how to engage with existing institutions. Uh, she, Virginia Woolf, did talk a lot and extendedly about how educated women must decide to participate in this sort of public sphere, where they can no longer hide behind their house doors, and that they need to engage, okay, to take part in the existing institutions. There's institutions like the Westminster Abbey that was mentioned, and the House of Lords that was mentioned as well, to become politicians, to ascend those stairs, if you remember all of these things. So I'm really liking A. Let's take a look at B. Women can have positions of influence in English society only if they give up some of their traditional roles. Well, that wasn't something that Virginia Woolf mentioned. She didn't say that they're going to have to give up their jobs as moms or housewives. She's just telling them, she's urging them to take part in the to engage in the public sphere and the public life, to take on these roles and jobs that they had not had up until that moment. The male monopoly on power in English society has had grave and continuing effects. Virginia Woolf, in this text, did not talk about how the male monopoly on these jobs has led to disadvantages. She didn't mention any of that stuff. So C is not the correct answer. The entry of educated women into positions of power traditionally held by men will transform those positions. Again, Virginia Woolf did not really talk about how women could change or improve or evolve these positions. She just said that women need to take part in the public sphere and to hold these positions just like men are. So I'm going with A. Of course, here our answer was B. So I'm going to put a little circle right there. Okay, so let's take a look at 34. Woolf uses the word we throughout the passage, mainly to do what? Okay, again, remember, every time she said we, she was referring to the women in society. So to reflect the growing friendliness among a group of people, not really. I mean, she didn't talk about friendliness at all. Advance the need for candor, for honesty among a group of people. She wasn't trying to advance honesty or warm-heartedness. Establish a sense of solidarity among a group of people. Solidarity is basically being united as one, okay? Grouping together as a group and being there for each other. I think that's a very good choice, okay? She is trying to establish a sense of solidarity among women. She's trying to do that as best as she can. So C looks like a good answer. Reinforce the need for respect among a group of people. Again, she didn't talk much about respect, so I'm going with C. According to the passage, Woolf chooses the setting of the bridge because it is conducive to a mode of fanciful reflection. At the beginning of the passage, if we go back to the beginning of the passage, I mean, here they're talking about fanciful reflection. Virginia Woolf does mention that it is a great place to stand on by the hour and dream and reflect. However, what she says is, we're not going to do this now. It's not now. We are pressed for time, and we are here to consider the facts, okay? So, although that setting can be used in some other context for fanciful reflection, in the case of this text, it is not, okay? Now, provides a good view of the procession of the sons of educated men. Does it provide a good view of the procession of the sons of educated men? Continuously in the passage, she uses that setting, that vantage point, if you remember the word vantage grounds, okay, to refer to all the places that she's pointing at, the bridge, the people passing on it, Westminster, the House of Lords, and so on, the steps. So she does have a very good view of all of these things. So B really sounds like the logical answer. Is within sight of historic episodes to which she alludes. She is within sight of historic places, if we might say. But she doesn't allude to these episodes. Now, when we talk about episodes, we're talking about events, okay? Events in history. Again, events in history did happen. in those places, of course. Okay, they are in the center of London, if I'm not mistaken. But she doesn't allude to any historic episodes that happened there. So that makes C wrong. It's symbolic of the legacy of past and present sons of educated men. She doesn't really focus on the symbolism, okay, or the symbolic legacy uh, that is represented by these buildings or by the setting. What she's really the reason why she chose that setting in particular is to point out to the women around her all the things that they could be doing. The fact that they could take part in this procession, which they have begun to. She's urging them to keep on doing that and to increase the numbers of the women who want to participate in the public sphere. She's pointing to all of the chances and all the opportunities that women have and all the jobs that they could take. So there isn't much focus on the symbolic nature of the setting. Okay? So again, we're going to go with B right here. Going back up. So Wolf indicates that the procession she describes in the passage, okay, let's take a look at the options, has come to have more practical influence in recent years. She doesn't really talk about any practical influence of the procession. Has become a celebrated feature of English public life. Did she say that? Did she mention that? Did she say that this procession has become a celebrated feature of English public life? That it is something to be celebrated or enjoyed? Includes all of the richest and most powerful men in England. Again, none of that was mentioned in the text. Of course, this leaves us with D, but let's take a look at it. Has become less exclusionary in its membership in recent years. So this membership, this group of people who are walking across that bridge, have changed from being all of it exclusively for men to begin to welcome some of the women who are ready to take part in jobs in the public sphere. So it has become less exclusionary, okay? It's become less of an all-male thing and more of a something for everyone, okay? Now, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? Again, let's take a look at each one of those lines, okay? Let's go back up to 12:17 and then 17:19. Here's 10:11 and here's 12. Okay, so there they go, our brothers who have been educated at public schools and universities, mounting those steps, passing in and out of those doors, ascending those pulpits, preaching, teaching, administering justice, practicing medicine, transacting business, and making money. Is this does this help us make the conclusion that we did in the previous question? It is from 17 to 20. Let's read this part. It is a solemn sight always, a procession, like a caravanserai crossing a desert. But now, for the past 20 years or so, it is no longer a sight merely, a photograph or a fresco, at which we can look with merely an aesthetic procession. For there, trapezing along at the tail end of the procession, we women go ourselves. So those are the lines that really insinuate the decreasing amount of the exclusionary quality of that procession. So we're looking for 23-24, and we should find it. There it is. Okay, so we're gonna go with C. Going down, Wolf characterizes the questions in lines 53 to 57 as both. Let's take a look right up here. So again, 51, 2, and here's 3 beginning with here, okay? But I'm gonna read from a few lines before just to kind of grasp the whole context of the passage, okay? So they are very important questions, and we have very little time in which to answer them. The questions that we have to ask and to answer about that procession during this moment of transition are so important that they may well change the lives of all men and women forever. For we have to ask ourselves here and now, do we wish to join that procession or don't we? On what terms shall we join that procession? Above all, where is it leading us, the procession of educated men? So again, you really should notice the urgency in which she speaks, okay, the pressing nature of the tone of her voice. So going back down, what characterizes the questions in lines 53, 57? Controversial and threatening. She's not threatening anybody, and the questions are not controversial. Weighty and they are weighty, but they're not unanswerable. Okay? Momentous and pressing. Well, there it is. I mean, this is one of the words we've been using since we've begun reading the text. These questions are momentous. It means they are of huge importance and they are pressing. We need to have an answer quickly. Provocative and mysterious. There's nothing mysterious about those questions, and they're not provocative. They don't provoke anyone. They're just momentous and pressing. They're urgent. Now, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? Again, you can go through all of these lines, okay, just to make sure which lines in particular we want to refer to. Let's take, I remember I read something along those lines right before the quotation itself that seemed to conduce to the whole tone of voice of the previous questions. So going back up, 46, 47. Okay, let's take a look. 46, sorry. Okay. So, but we have not come here to laugh, okay? Or to talk of fashions, men's and women's. Here we are on the bridge to ask ourselves certain questions. And they are very important questions, and we have very little time in which to answer them. So I would go with anything that would refer to lines 48 and 49, okay? So I want to go with this portion right here, because it helped me understand that the questions which came in this part are very momentous and very pressing, very urgent. So 48 and 49, there we go. Okay, so the answer is B, right here. Now, which choice most closely captures the meaning of the figurative sixpence referred to in lines 70 and 71? If you remember, I think we concluded this while we were reading the passage, that she wasn't actually referring to a sixpence or a coin. She was referring to the chance that women finally received their right to go out there and participate in jobs that they were not allowed to take and roles that they were not allowed to hold in previous years. And they finally have that. Now, what are they going to do with this sixpence? If you remember, that's the question that she asked in the last part of the text, okay, when she began talking about the sixpence. So here, it was thus that they won us the right to our brand new sixpence, okay, our new chance. It falls to us now to go on thinking, how are we to spend that sixpence? How are we going to make use of this chance? So does the sixpence refer to tolerance? Not really. Does it refer to knowledge? Again, not so. Is it the opportunity? It is. It's an opportunity again to go and participate in the public sphere, to take very important jobs, and to become basically just like men with nothing to differentiate between them. Perspective, does the sixpence refer to perspective? Not really. Perspective is point of view. C is the best answer. It is the opportunity or the chance that women have to ask and to demand the right to actually take the same jobs that men have. Now, the range of places and occasions listed in lines 72 to 76 mainly serves to emphasize how, so let's take a look at lines 72 and 76 at that list of places. So 5, 4, 3, and 2. Let us think in offices. Here remember when she's trying to ask women to not only think at their homes, but to think about these stuff in their offices, as she says right here, in omnibuses, while we are standing in the crowd watching coronations and Lord Mayor's shows. Let us think in the gallery of the House of Commons. Again, that's the place where politicians meet. In the law courts, let's be judges. Let us think at baptisms and marriages and funerals. Let's be clergymen or clergywomen. So the reason why, okay, she mentions this range of places and occasions, okay, it mainly serves to emphasize how novel the challenge faced by women is, how new this challenge is. Is this why she's asking the women to think about these stuff, to think about how new they are? Well, not exactly, okay, she's not trying to emphasize how new they are by asking women to think in those places, how pervasive the need for critical reflection is. Virginia Woolf does ask women to do a whole lot of thinking, and it is thinking not for the sake of thinking, but to actually become again active members of society. Okay, there is a need for critical thought and reflection once we take those positions that she's asking them to take. So I'm gonna put a slight tick right here. Is she asking them to think about those positions to emphasize how complex the political and social issues of the day are? That wasn't an emphasis of hers. How enjoyable the career possibilities for women are? Again, she's not trying to show them that they are enjoyable. She's trying to show them that they need to take those jobs. They need to think in those places. They need to take an active part in those positions and to think of how to improve them, how to work efficiently in them. So I would go with B. So this was the fourth text from the SAT practice test number 1. Thank you all for watching. If you like the job that we've been doing, if you're benefiting from this, please make sure you share this with your friends and family. Make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button, and see you soon on the next video. Bye.